Oh, wow. Rotus, we're coming on in 2 seconds. And we are live.
All right.
You can depend on.
All right, and here we are, 30 minutes gone past 6 o'clock for a Monday morning. This is Business Express on Smooth Breakfast. I'm Sope Martins, and Rotus joins me for the episode. Good morning, Rotus. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, Sope. Good morning to all our viewers out there. Good to be with you guys to kick off the week.
All right. Now, if you'd like to join the conversation, you can do so by sending your WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 981. You can also go up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos, where we are streaming live right now. Good morning, YouTube. And you can use the hashtag Business Express 981 up on Twitter. All right, Rotus. So, oil prices. Can we talk about this? Because I am seeing prices just skyrocketing. This is a little bit bonkers to see. So what exactly is going on? What's the latest with oil prices? What are the triggers that are just affecting these things?
Yeah, we saw there's a lot that happened over the weekend, particularly yesterday. So there's, I think, 3 factors or 3 triggers that pushed oil prices. I think they're about $126 a barrel right now for crude oil.
Who would have thought that?
I know, it's nuts. So the first thing, of course, is the ongoing issue, war in Ukraine with having invaded Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Sunday, in fact, just yesterday, was saying that the United States and Europe are actually considering banning import of Russian oil. And I mean, Russia is like what, the 3rd largest player in the market when it comes.
That's a pretty seismic move.
It's pretty huge. I mean, Russia does about 7 million barrels per day. That's what it exports. So it's pretty large. And this was something that initially the White House said it was not going to do, because fuel prices in America, what people are paying for fuel at their pumps, it's already skyrocketed to the highest level in years. Same thing in the United Kingdom, based on the fact that oil prices have been rising now for quite a while. But this Russia-Ukraine situation has pushed things even higher. So there's a senator, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. She sponsored a bill last week, I think it was on Thursday, where it was a bill that's supposed to, essentially see the United States stop importing oil from Russia, which really hits Vladimir Putin in his pockets, because Russia has the largest, gas reserves in the world, 3rd largest oil producer. They make a lot of money from oil and gas. They also wheat and all these other things. So by targeting oil specifically, you limit his ability to be able to fund these things that he's doing around the world, where he's, like invading of Ukraine. The White House initially said that wasn't going to happen, that if you limit the amount of oil you get from Russia, you now impact global supply, and that will now push prices even further up for the average American. There's a midterm election coming up. But seeing as things have escalated in Ukraine, they are now turning around and saying that they will actually look at possibly limiting those imports coming from Russia, which is why you've seen prices jump. Secondly, the Iran nuclear deal has been ongoing. Donald Trump, when he came into office in the United States, he yanked the deal, he torpedoed the deal. They're trying to get Iran back. And if they agree to terms, I think the talks have been going on in Switzerland for now. If Iran is allowed to reopen negotiations and the Iran nuclear deal comes back into place, then Iran can start, because Iran has been facing a lot of sanctions. Mm-hmm. Iran gets to add oil to the market. I really think Iran does about 2 or 3 million barrels per day. So there was
what does Nigeria do?
Nigeria does, as of right now, we're doing 1.4, 1.5. It's very small. Unfortunately, we're not. Historically, we've never really done better than 2 million barrels per day. That's as best as we've been able to do. Yeah, pretty sad. So So one, Russia, Ukraine. Two, the possibility of a stop in the Iran nuclear deal, preventing Iran from adding oil to the market. And then three, there were some minor issues in Libya where a couple, oil fields were closed. There's been some, pretty much a war.
And the political shenanigans that have been happening over there. Yeah.
So you add those three. That's why you're seeing oil prices where they are this morning. It continues to be very volatile. Just whipping up. In fact, it got to 130 briefly. It was at 129, 130, and then came down to 126.
How high do you think this thing could go?
Yeah, look, Goldman Sachs said 185. I think somebody from Citigroup said 200. If oil hits 200, then everybody's in trouble. You have to think about it's bad, because of what it would mean for so many people around the world that buy fuel, cost of operations for airlines to be able to fly, all the other derivatives of fuel, kerosene, diesel, all those prices skyrocket, and that would really put the squeeze on a lump of in fact, it will hurt global demand. The global economic growth will actually be hurt.
I mean, just a quick question, but what is the highest we have seen oil go? Let's say,
I think it was 20. I think it was this 130 was when I think it was during the Jonathan administration, if I remember correctly. There was around 120, around this level, 120, 130 or so. I think it may even touched 140. But it's been a while since we've seen the oil prices that high. So
wow.
Yeah, but I mean, during that time, we weren't going through, we didn't have a pandemic that hurt supplies. We didn't have, all these other geopolitical issues, if I remember correctly. So it's tight because more expensive oil, again, what it means for the operations of different players in different sectors. And then for individuals, human beings who are paying for fuel for their cars and so on and so forth. It's a ripple effect.
I mean, can you extrapolate how big this is going to be, like how much it's going to affect us here at home?
Yeah, for us, I mean, you can imagine what it would mean for the subsidy bill for Nigeria. So
I don't think we can say 3 trillion anymore.
Exactly. Shabam Chuduri is the World Bank country manager, I believe, for Nigeria. And the World Bank has been harping on and on and on that Nigeria needs to remove fuel subsidies. So the higher the higher the price of crude oil, the higher the landing cost of fuel, since we import it into the country. And if the landing cost, the higher that goes, then the actual higher the price of fuel. But since the government is paying for it, then the government subsidy bill goes up. So I believe that 3 trillion naira is what President Buhari was asking for. Well, that was when oil was 85 or 86. At 85, 86, they said there was a difference of about 200 naira per liter. And they now did some small back of the napkin math, 200 naira per liter times 30 days times 12 months. I think they came out to about 4 trillion naira. So that's when it was 85. It's 126. So that number has just skyrocketed. So it puts pressure on Nigeria's fiscal structure. Nigeria probably have to borrow more money. There's an election next door, which puts even more pressure on the country to try to maintain the subsidy so that people don't go nuts. So it's a real...
oh, wow. Fun times to be living inside a pressure cooker.
Exactly. It's really, really tight. So as of right now, NNPC, I think the NNPC has been making, paying money into the federation accounts. The federation accounts is from that account, we get FAC allocations, the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, which is basically the sharing of money. Take oil proceeds and NNPC makes a payment to the account. And then those proceeds are distributed amongst the states. The states are able to pay civil servants and so on and so forth. They didn't make, I don't believe they made any payments to the federation accounts in January of this year. Since last year, they've been warning that they cannot make that payment because they are paying so much in covering the subsidy. So that actually could lead to, you have ASU on strike because they're saying that teachers haven't been paid. You've got all these other organizations all complaining about not being paid. As long as you've got that large subsidy bill that you continue to pay for, you have less money to be able to pay ASU, to be able to pay all these other folks. And that's just, the ripple effect. So it could get really problematic for us. The higher oil prices remain.
All right, people are sending messages in. Let's look through some of them. Now, Jumoke says, not that I'm supporting the full subsidy, but the fuel subsidy, but should the increase in revenue not cushion the impact of the rise in subsidy? And Olaleko is kind of seconding that, saying, irrespective of the price of crude, Nigeria stands to minimally benefit from the price escalation. Subsidy costs will gulp the benefits coupled with low production quota. What do you say to those, Rotus?
Yeah, so remember, Shopper, you asked the pertinent question, how many barrels of crude does Nigeria export when I was talking about Russia and Iran? Unfortunately, Nigeria's production has been hampered. We are not being able to produce as much oil because of the fact that we had to shut down facilities to comply with OPEC plus cuts. When COVID happened, demand was affected. People weren't going out with planes flying, so demand for oil went down. And as demand of oil went down, well, the price was also impacted. That's what got us into our second recession, right? Because oil prices tanked in 2020. So OPEC came out and told all its players, Nigeria inclusive, all of you have to reduce your production in order for us to basically lower the amount of supply in the market so that prices can start climbing back. So the issue is that it's not that easy to just turn off and then turn back on your oil production facilities. Plus, you've got a big vandalism issue in Nigeria. I think this day newspaper did a calculation whereby about $29 billion worth of oil have been lost to vandalism and theft. Nigeria has a big problem with oil theft and oil vandalism. So basically, the gist is that we're not producing as much. So oil can go to $200 per barrel. All this increases.
We'll be watching it go by.
Exactly. If you're not, your profits is a measure of price times volume. You have to sell more stuff, and then if the price goes up, the more stuff you sell, the more money you make. But until if you can't produce enough of oil, then you're not going to benefit. I mean, our forex reserves should have been rising by now. The excess crude accounts should have been rising by now. There should be a benefit to Nigeria, but unfortunately, we just haven't. We haven't seen it because of our production issues and oil theft, which has to be addressed.
All right, now I've got messages in from Benga Akomu, who says it's not only oil prices that are headed for the sky, products, goods, and services in Nigeria are going up, and it's affecting the pocket. What is the government going to do about it? He also says a friend who runs a bakery has abandoned his diesel generator because of the increase in diesel prices. So definitely the prices of bread are they're going to rise. And that kind of leads me to another question, because we've been seeing diesel prices climbing past 500 Naira per liter. What is going on there?
That's crazy. The last time we were all talking about diesel was when it had touched 400 Naira per liter. Diesel was 190 a year ago, right? So 190 to like 400. Now it's touched 520 or 530. It's kind of simple. Diesel is a derivative of crude oil. And I believe the United States, its own stockpiles of diesel have reduced greatly because it's dealing with more demand because of economies that are reopening. So you're seeing more demand for diesel in that respect, and that's what has been pushing prices up. The impact of that, you had airlines recently that had to come together to raise prices, although the Federal Competition Commission said what they did was illegal or something, or that wasn't right, and they might be fined for that. But airlines, jet fuel is impacted from there. You've got diesel, people who use diesel generators and so on and so forth, also being impacted. So that was when it was 400. Now it's 5. And Kamu's friend that runs a bakery, anybody else who uses a diesel generator, I think it's the National Association of Road Transport Operators, I think it's NARTO. They said they had to raise prices of their fees for moving fuel from the depots when it comes in to the fuel stations, because their trucks use diesel and the price at which they are paying to fill up their trucks continues to skyrocket. That was when it was 400. This is when they made the news. So they're saying that the federal government should pay them more for their, in fact, they even threatened they kind of threatened a strike, but they didn't really go on strike. But again, all this I'm telling you was when it was 400. This new 530 level now is just going to put more pressure on all these people, from airlines, truck operators, so on and so forth.
All right, well, we've come to the end of the show, but let me read a couple of messages, because Trisha from VI is reporting in and says, I bought diesel at 540 Naira yesterday.
Crazy.
And
Crazy.
as usual, I love messages from Gilbert Musa from Festac, who says, what is important for Nigeria is to stimulate domestic growth and open the non-oil sector gradually. Oil prices, for the record, since 2005, when it was $60 per barrel, has naturally caused some level of anxiety globally. And that's all we've got time for. But hey, continue the conversation up on Twitter at Rotancode. Tag him in. And of course, tag us. We are at Smooth 981 FM. Rotus, thank you. See you tomorrow, same time.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Shockwave. Thanks for all the messages as well.
Have a great day. All right. So coming up, we've got great music. And of course, Freshly Pressed at 7:30. Stick with us right here. We are Smooth.
Brought to you by EdgeSwitch.
And that, people, is